Alright, what's going on, guys? The MW3 beta is officially over, so that means it is time for my annual review. Playtime this year, I'd say I played for about 60 hours over the course of the 2 weekends combined. When the real game drops, I will probably end up doing 100 hours again for my review, just like last year. It comes out on November 10th, so we got about 3 weeks or so to get ready, but let's get into this review. Let's just start with some general gameplay stuff. I like the way the game feels. You know, the movement and the gunplay, gunfights are very solid. I personally like the increased health because it does increase the skill gap in gunfights. Because like last year, every gun killed in like 2-3 bullets, so anyone could kill you. Even if you happen to be way better than somebody, when you die so quickly, they have a pretty good chance of killing you. Now you have to hit a few more shots to secure the kills, so that's a positive of having 150 health. I'd say the negative of 150 health is sometimes it can feel a little bit weird if there's connection or bullet reg issues. There's definitely times where I feel like I just died in 2 bullets and I hit the guy with like 4 or 5. Some of that is to be expected. Obviously, we're playing an online game, things happen, and also that obviously goes both ways as well. There's sometimes where I feel like this guy was shooting me and I just killed him in 2 bullets. And I'm not talking about headshots. Obviously, headshots changes things. I'm just saying, like, sometimes you can feel a little bit of inconsistency with the higher health, but overall, I still think I would prefer it to everyone just dying in like 2-3 bullets with every single gun, you know what I mean? Anyways, let's talk movement. There is definitely a good amount of movement in this game. They made some changes from weekend 1 to weekend 2 to make the movement even more smooth. They took away some of the delay. Speaking of changes, I actually do want to note this in the beginning of this video. Just because they made a change in the beta does not guarantee that it is going to be in the actual game. They have done that to us before a few times. They did it last year. They did it in World War II. I'm sure they've done it other times as well that I can't remember off the top of my head, but those are the 2 most recent examples where they made positive changes in the beta, then the game drops, and they reverted them back. So hopefully we do not see that happen again. But just keep in mind, that's in their playbook. That is definitely something they can do. So like I said, the movement is really nice. I think all the movement kids are satisfied at the very least. I would say it's probably not quite on the level of Modern Warfare 2019, but it's like 80 to 90% of that. Like, it's pretty close, especially if you put the tactical pads on. Like, it's very close. And I've already seen like the little cringe montages on Twitter of like the 12-year-old kids who like start spazzing out, hitting like 35 button combos to get like 1 kill. And then if you go to the replies, everyone's just like roasting them, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Because like if that's how you enjoy playing the game, go for it. But that's not for me, and it's certainly not an efficient or effective way to play the game. But as long as you're having fun, go crazy. So I think the movement is in a pretty good like middle ground. You know, it's not no movement like we had last year, was like pretty much no movement. And then Modern Warfare 2019 is like, you know, cracked. So it's like kind of in the middle, but a little bit closer to the, you know, cracked side, but not quite 100%. So I think it's in like a fairly good compromise spot right now. But I think the biggest issue with the game right now, and I think most people would agree with this, is the spawn system is just straight up terrible. I don't even know how to describe it because it's not exactly squad spawns like Modern Warfare 2019 or Vanguard, and it's definitely not logical spawns like Cold War, where you can like, you know, block spawns and force them to spawn certain places and stuff. It doesn't work like that. I think the best way to describe it is really revenge spawns. And what I mean by that is, I honestly believe from my experience so far that this game is coded to spawn you in a position to kill the person that killed you. Because it's just so random. But one thing that I find consistent is like, the guy I killed is always right back to kill me like 2 seconds later. A lot of the times it'll spawn both teams like close to each other off spawn, you know what I mean? Like, I'm spawning right here and then like an enemy spawning like literally right behind me, or like right to my left, you know what I mean? Like, spawns just don't really make very much sense at all. There's no logic to it, and I think it's most evident in a game mode like Domination, because Domination is one of the oldest game modes we have. We all know the way Domination should work. You should spawn on the flags that you control. We all know the way to play Domination. You cap 2 flags, you let them have the 3rd, and then you can kind of spawn trap them. You have a general general idea of where they're spawning. As long as you don't like go run up into their spawn and cap the third flag, like you should be good, right? In this game, it doesn't matter what flags you have, what flags they have. You can pretty much spawn anywhere, and there's no logic to it whatsoever. So they got to do something about that. I'm sure they can adjust it, but the spawn system is horrible. That's why I actually enjoyed playing S&D in this game, even though I'm not much of an S&D player. But you know, back in the day, I played a lot of S&D on this game, and I wanted to try it again because they added in the beta, and I actually had a lot of fun. And I think part of the reason for that is because it takes pretty much the worst aspect of this game out of the equation, which is the spawns, right? Because you know, there's no respawn in S&D. So S&D actually played very similar to how it used to play back in the day on this game, I would say. And I can't say the same for like domination. But I'm gonna remain a little bit optimistic here and say that they probably are going to do something about the spawns. I believe they have acknowledged it. They put it on like their little info board or whatever. It's just a question of how long it's going to take, because I know in Vanguard there was an issue with spawns. They did change the spawns. I don't know how long it took. I forgot. I think it really took them like 3 months though. Like it took them a while. The pros kept complaining about it, and eventually they adjusted the spawns. I know they're open to fixing the spawns. The question is, how long is it going to take for them to actually fix them? I don't know. So that's really my main issue with the game. A smaller issue, but still an issue, is the visibility. They did add gamer tags back above people's heads in the second weekend, which helped a lot. Weekend 1 was rough. It was really difficult to tell who was an enemy and who was a teammate. It's definitely a lot better now. However, I still think it's a little bit hard to see in general, and I don't know if they could just simply make a small adjustment to like the contrast or the colors, saturation, something. I don't know, just a small tweak to the color scheme could do a lot. And I know you can do that on your end, especially if you're on PC. Like there's a lot of settings you can do. I think they at least have some options on console as well, but it would be better if the game just actually did it themselves instead of me trying to mess with it and fix it, because it's a minor thing, but it is still a thing, and it is noticeable when you play the game, especially in certain situations. You really can't tell what's going on. So speaking of, you know, visibility, it's kind of similar situation. We have the same UI as last year. If you notice, they renamed the Call of Duty game to like just Call of Duty. It doesn't have like a name attached to it anymore. Like it doesn't say Modern Warfare 3. I think what they're trying to do is just have like one app for all the different Call of Duties. So I fear that we are going to be stuck with this UI forever now. This is like the UI they decided on, and every game gets put on this now, I guess. I don't know. And I'm going to be honest, the UI is just horrible. It is not user-friendly at all. And I don't know how like casuals even operate it, because I'm literally, level like over 1,000 on Modern Warfare 2. Actually, if you combine my other account, I'm like level 1,400 or something on Modern Warfare 2, right? Something like that. I've played a ridiculous amount of that game. I stream rank play like every weekend, and sometimes I still get confused on how to find stuff on the menus, like how to get to certain game modes and stuff. It's a little confusing, and I have countless hours on the game. I just don't think you will ever get used to it, because it's just not logical or user-friendly the way it's set up. I don't know if they're ever going to change it. I just wanted to point out that it does have the same terrible UI, and I don't know what they were thinking. It's just way too complex for no reason. It needs to be as simple as possible. That's the direction you need to go when it comes to something like a UI. But let's move on. Last but not least, when we're talking about general gameplay, we cannot ignore the skill-based matchmaking. Yes, it is in this game. In case anyone was hopeful that it wasn't going to be, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, get that hope out of your head. Skill-based matchmaking is here now until the rest of time, whenever Call of Duty is dead. I don't know. They're never taking that out. I promise you. Like, at this point, I don't even know what to say about it, right? Like, nobody likes it for whatever reason on the back end, whatever data they have or whatever. It has shown them that people are spending more money on the game when it's in the game, I guess. So they're going to keep it. Obviously, there are ways to reduce it. You can play with a party. You can play with, worse people. There are ways to manipulate it. You know what I mean? If you want to get in there on the reverse boosted account. So you either got to do one of those two things, or you just got to deal with it. If you're solo, that's when it's the absolute worst. And it's really unfortunate because it divides the community so much, to the point where people are playing different games, Like, we might all be playing Modern Warfare 3, but we all aren't playing the same game. I've been in the top bracket lobbies, and I've played on a reverse boosted account and been in those lobbies, and I've played on like an average, you know what I mean? It's a totally different game at those three levels. Like, the gameplay is completely different, you know what I mean? So when people argue about like, oh, they like this, they don't like this part of the game, they might not even be playing the same game as you. Because of skill based, like people are getting a different experience. So it's just unfortunate, but I don't think there's much to like complain about or talk about. Like it's here to stay. So just either manipulate it or deal with it. That's really your only options. So yeah, that's my general thoughts on the game. I want to get a little bit more specific now, talk about actual aspects of the game. We're going to break it down to guns, maps, perks, kill streaks, and equipment. Let's start with the guns. There's not too much to say about the guns right now because we've only got to use like, I don't know, 12 of them or something. The ACR and the UMP, or the Striker, are miles better than any other gun in the game, just like the original MW2, so that makes sense. They did nerf the Striker already once, but it's still insane. I can notice the nerf, like it doesn't have as much range as it had in Weekend 1, but it's still very good. The ACR, or in this game I think it's called the MCW, is also right there with it. You could probably consider the ACR the best gun in the game as well. I don't know if the ACR and UMP are just overpowered or if the other guns just suck. You know, there might be better guns in the full game that are maybe even better than these two, or they might be at least close to it or like comparable on its level. But as of right now, I would guess that they're just overpowered because they're just way better than everything else. Also, don't forget we are getting the MW2 guns from last year, so that's going to be very interesting to balance that out with the new health, because there has to be some adjustments made or some of those guns can end up being like overpowered or something. And I really hope that is not the case because it's a new year. I used all those guns last year. Like I want to use new guns this year, you know what I mean? So I really hope that the MW3 guns will be the meta so I can enjoy using the new ones. I don't want to have to be forced to use the old ones because they're way better, you know, that would be really terrible. So hopefully they balance it correctly. The good news is visual recoil is reduced. Hopefully it never comes back. I don't know why they started adding that into Call of Duty. I guess it's for realism. I don't really know, but Call of Duty is not a realistic game, so we don't have to start adding in realistic aspects to it. This game is not realistic at all. It's not supposed to be some simulation. That's the good news. The bad news is the terrible attachment system from last year is back. It just doesn't make sense the way they do it, man. I don't want to have to rank up a shotgun, let's say, to level 10 in order to unlock a grip on my assault rifle. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. It's annoying. At least do it a more, like, streamlined way. Like, maybe I have to rank up this other assault rifle to get an attachment for all assault rifles or something. Like, that makes a little bit of sense, but the fact that it can be like a completely unrelated type of thing to do a different like it just doesn't make sense. It's terrible. It's annoying. I am gonna probably get mastery camos anyway, so it doesn't matter for me. But for people that don't want to like grind the game in that way, that just want to use the guns that they want, it sucks for them because they have to use shit that's like dumb just to get like the good attachments for what they actually want to use to enjoy the game. So it's just not a good system. I don't agree with it. It's annoying and it's also confusing. You know what I mean? Once again, like I play the game a lot. I'm a veteran of Call of Duty, you know what I mean? It's been like 15 years and it's still a little bit confusing even to me. So I can't imagine the casual players who you know haven't been playing that long or don't play like every day. I can't imagine they're having an easy time figuring shit out either. So I don't even know why it's like that. But that's pretty much it for the weapons. We'll see when the game drops how the rest of the guns are looking. Let's talk about the maps because this is probably the most controversial aspect of the game, right? We are going to be getting all 16 OG MW2 maps. So far, we have seen 5 of them. So I'm just going to go through the 5 one by one. Let's start with Rust. Rust is just Rust. You know, it's chaotic. It's crazy. Sometimes it's going to be really fun if you're on the good team. And if you're on the bad team, it's not going to be any fun at all. It pretty much plays the same as it used to. I think it's a little bigger, but you know, you are also a little bit faster. You know, the pace is different, so it kind of evens out. It's probably going to be the go-to map for getting camos and kills and ranking up or whatever. Actually, I think I saw somewhere that they're adding shipment into this as well. I could be wrong, but I swear I saw that somewhere. I don't know if it was just a rumor or something. So shipment will probably be the camo map. But you know, Rust has its place in the game. You know, it's just it's kind of in its own separate category from all the rest of the maps. You know what I mean? But I had fun on it. You know, it's the same as always. Next, we have Estate. Even with the tac sprint and the faster movement, it's just too big for respawn, man. It's simply not a good hardpoint map at all. Too much running around and stuff like to get to the different hills. And domination in this game is just completely broken, you know, because people are just spawning everywhere. So when you have a giant map like a state, it just gets like really boring trying to like run across the map and go find them and stuff. Like, that's just not how the game should be. It's fine for search. I thought it played well, you know, it reminded me of how it used to be. But a state was never like the greatest map, even in the original MW2. You know, I actually think it's slightly worse on this game, but to begin with, it wasn't like the best map ever or anything. You know, it was kind of mid, and I think it still is kind of mid. Next, we have Skid Row. Skid Row actually plays better than the original, in my opinion. I would consider it probably the best map in the beta. It definitely was the best map in weekend 1. It played pretty well for hardpoint. They might actually use it for competitive, depending on how the other maps are looking. I thought S&D was solid on it as well. I think S&D is the least affected game mode on these maps in this game, right? Because it actually really reminds me of the original Modern Warfare 2. The other modes not so much, because Dom is just so bad with the spawn system. And obviously there was no hardpoint, there was no kill confirm back then. And actually I would say I guess TDM plays pretty similar as well. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well Skid Row worked on this game, because back in the day, once again, Skid Row wasn't like one of the best maps in the game or anything. Like, it was a solid map, but like nothing too special, right? But now it's actually, I would say, pretty good. Next we have Favela. Yeah, I think Favela plays worse than the original on this game, which is sad to say because Favela is one of the iconic MW2 maps, was one of the better maps on that game. It just does not play the same way on this game, you know? I don't know what exactly it is. It's definitely a combination of the spawns being way different and way off, and just overall the pace of the game is way faster in this game because of the movement and everything. So it is a little bit disappointing that Favela wasn't as good, but we still have quite a few good maps left, so like it should be all right. And then finally we have High Rise. Pretty solid actually. It feels a lot like the original. I think part of that is because the High Rise spawns actually kind of make a little bit of sense, because for the most part on High Rise you spawn in one of the two bases, right? There are middle map spawns as well, but for the most part, you're going to probably spawn in one of the two sides. Those are kind of like the dominant spawn points. So I think you can make a case that High Rise is the best map so far. And also, they kept all the jump spots from the original. Although I will say they made it easier to do like the little jump off to grab the ledge to go up on top of the roof. They added like an actual ladder there. So all you have to do is like make contact with it and you cling on the ladder. Whereas back in the day, you could actually like slide off. There was actually like a small amount of skill involved back in the day to do that jump. Now they pretty much removed that because they added an actual ladder on there that you like actually, your character like animates onto. So I don't know, just a small thing. I feel like they should have kept it a little bit more skillful, you know what I mean? So at least it meant something if you were able to do that back in the day. But now like anyone can do it if you know about it. Like a game pretty much does it for you. But yeah, honestly, out of the 5 maps that we've had, I really enjoyed High Rise, Rust, and Skid Row. Favela was okay, a little bit disappointing. And I just really didn't like playing a state. Like, it was just kind of boring. It just wasn't, you know, it's just too big, honestly. But we still have 11 more maps to come. I think there's 16 total, right? Including some of the best ones. Like, we still have Terminal, we still have Scrapyard. Like, there's still some really good maps coming. I'm pretty optimistic about Terminal. I mean, we've gotten Terminal a couple times already, and it's always good. So it should be good once again. So I'm not really that worried about the map selection. You know, I've seen a lot of different takes about the maps on social media and on videos and stuff. I've seen people saying, oh, these maps aren't as good as I remember, and I've seen other people who have like never even played the original talking about like, man, why do you guys even like this game in the first place? Like, why did you guys even hype these maps up? I just want to point out a couple very important details here, right? The spawns in this game are not the original spawns back then, and we did not have tack sprint and sliding back then, so it was a slower pace, and also we cannot forget the doors. So it is the same maps, but there are some very key differences that make the maps play differently than how they did back in the day. So it's not a one-to-one comparison. So I feel like all those takes don't really make much sense. They compare visually, but they don't exactly play the same, you know, if that means anything. So if you are judging Favela off this game, you're just wrong, all right? Because I promise you, Favela was not like this back in the day. Anyone who played can back that statement up. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I've seen people with a lot of really bad takes about the maps. So let's talk Killstreaks, right? The kill streaks that we got in the beta were pretty fucking lame, man. I'm actually really disappointed we didn't get another kill streak for weekend 2. I'm surprised we didn't get at least one good kill streak to use. I'm sure the game will have better stuff, right? Like it's got to, right? I am expecting that we get Harrier, Pavlo, Chopper Gunner, AC-130. Like I am expecting those, so we'll see. But as far as the beta, like there's not much to say about the kill streaks because we just didn't really get anything cool. I do like that they let you toggle between kill streaks and score streaks, so depending on the game mode and the situation, you might want to pick one or the other. There is like a glitch with counter UAV. Sometimes when you're trying to call it in, it'll tell you like there's not enough space to call it in, which doesn't really make sense because you're just pulling out like your little phone or whatever. I believe they said they're going to fix that. There is a nuke in this game. It's an MGB. It's literally an exact copy and paste of last year. It's pretty lame, I'm gonna be honest. Like I think they dropped the ball a little bit on the nuke as well. You know how cool it would have been if they would have remastered the original nuke, because that sound and that logo is like iconic to Call of Duty, and they could have easily remastered that and put it in this game instead of just copying the stupid MGB. And I think that would have been a great selling point for the game. It would have generated a lot of hype. Like it would have been a really good idea. I don't know why they didn't take the time to do that. I don't think it would have been that much effort to redo that. You know what I mean? It would have been pretty cool, but they decided not to. So I don't know. Maybe they could do that later. Just an idea. So next, let's talk about equipment. Field upgrades are back. So we have trophies confirmed. If you guys remember, in Vanguard, they tried to say they didn't want to add trophies because it wasn't realistic to World War II, right? But then like 3 months into the game, they started adding fucking furry skins and shit, like pink bears and shit. And they're talking about realism was crazy. And they finally folded and added trophies into the game. But yeah, the field upgrades are pretty standard. Munitions box, scrambler, med kit. There is a new one, this ACS, that can actually capture objectives for you. So like you kind of throw it on the point and then you don't have to be on it. You can kind of like protect it. I think it only lasts 10 seconds. As far as lethals, pretty standard. Frag, Semtex. They did add this new like annoying drone. It's almost like a hunter killer from BO2, but well, they actually have a kill streak in this game that's more like a hunter killer from BO2, but it's like this little drone. You just throw it and it just goes in a straight line wherever you're pointing at, and it blows up whenever it touches like a wall or a person or whatever. It's pretty annoying. It's definitely going to get banned in competitive. It can get kind of ridiculous if there's like a full team like spamming them. Like I've played games where like there's like 5 people on their team and they all got it on and they're all just like throwing them, and you get one every single life because it's a lethal, so like they're just spamming it at the hard point and stuff. It's really annoying. As far as tacticals, as of right now, we don't have a stun. We only have a flash. There is a cool feature with flashbangs in this game where you can avoid them if you just turn around before it like goes off or whatever. I think they stole it from Counter-Strike. I mean, it's a cool feature. Everyone is mainly on controller on this game, so I don't know how often you're going to be in a position to really pull a move like that off, but it's a cool feature to have. You know, it is something to keep in mind, I guess, but you know, nothing too crazy. They nerfed Battle Rage. If you guys played in weekend 1, it was absurd, just absolutely broken. Now it's back to normal, so not too many people are using it. Doesn't really do much. So yeah, nothing too crazy here with the equipment, but let's finish off with the perks. So there is technically no perks in this game, but the system we have is pretty much the same as having perks, I would say. So you get 4 different categories. So for example, let's say Perk 1 slot, instead of that, we have gloves, right? So there's currently 3 different types of gloves. Each one has its own benefit, and you just pick a pair of gloves. So it's pretty much the same as like picking up Perk 1, right? But there are a few important perks to talk about. Number 1, Dead Silence. You have Covert Sneakers, which is basically Dead Silence. Now, there's going to have to be some testing done on this when the actual game comes out, but just based on what I could tell, I'm pretty sure you're silent with these on, unless someone is running the conduction headset, which is a type of gear you can run. Think of gear as like the Perk 2 slot or whatever. And conduction headset is basically like built-in sound EQ. It's like an actual sound EQ perk on the game. It reduces everything in the game except for footsteps. You can kind of think of it as like awareness from previous CODs, although I don't think it actually increases footstep audio. I think what it does is just decrease everything else. But I'm like 90% sure if you have that perk on, you can still hear Dead Silence, but it is extremely quiet. So in like a 1v1 or like a quiet situation, you could hear it, but if people are like shooting their guns and stuff's going on the map, you probably would not hear it even with that perk on. Like I said, this is just my personal experience from playing S&D. I don't don't know for a fact what's true and not true, but I can say for 100% fact, I have been heard with dead silence on. I can tell from the kill cam that they heard me, and I can hear people sometimes, and it's like super quiet, and it makes me think they have dead silence on, but I can still hear them because I have that perk, you know what I mean? So that's just from me playing the game, what I experienced. Also, we got Stalker back as a perk, but it's pretty weak, man. Like, it's not even worth running. It needs to be buffed. Like, you can barely even notice the difference, which would be cool because it competes with dead silence and tactical pads because it's in the boots category, and both of those are very good boots. And Stalker, like, it has to really work for you to choose Stalker over dead silence or tactical pads. Speaking of tac pads, these are insane. They're probably going to get banned for competitive, I don't know, but sliding with these is absurd. It's just a huge boost to your movement. If you're a movement guy, you got to run these. You are giving up dead silence, but it might be worth it. It's a tough trade-off, actually. Like, I like that it's actually competitive. You got to pick something. So there's definitely a lot of different perk combos out there, especially because depending on which vest you choose to run, you can either get up to 4 different slots or only 2. So there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching, a lot of customization. You can really figure out what the right combo is for you or for what game mode you're playing. Like, it's definitely very customizable. So overall, I think the perk system is fine. It's still basically perks. It's just a new way of doing it. If I had to throw a prediction out there, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to sell us like boots and gloves or something. It's going to be part of like the cosmetics. I think that's why they did it. I don't think it has anything to do with the gameplay at all. So that's kind of my breakdown for everything. I'm going to just give you guys a little bit of a conclusion, some of my final thoughts here. Like I've already said before, this is the game that we should have gotten last year. It would have made way more sense. I don't know why everything went down the way that it did, but here we are, okay? We finally have the game we were supposed to have. So that being said, I'm gonna give you guys an actual rating of where I think the game is right now, just based on the beta, like kind of like a prediction of where the game is going to be on release day, right? I would give this game a 6 out of 10 in its current state, you know, and I think it has some potential. I think if they just fixed the spawns alone, that would probably make it a 7. As of right now, like, it's okay, it's above average, it's not like special, but it's, you know, pretty solid. Like, for example, I would probably give Modern Warfare 2 from last year like a 3, because that was just an incomplete game. This game actually has some potential, right? I think a 5 is like kind of average. 5 is like kind of the bare minimum for Call of Duty, like a decent COD. There's nothing good about it, nothing bad about it necessarily. It's just like, it's COD, you know, it's whatever. So I think this game is slightly above the bare minimum of what I would expect from a Call of Duty game, and I feel 100% confident in saying right now, this game is going to be better than Modern Warfare 2 from last year. And I'm like 99% confident it's going to be better than Vanguard and better than Modern Warfare 2019 as well. I think they would really have to drop the ball for this game to end up being worse than those 3. I don't think that's saying much. I'm not saying that's like a huge accomplishment because those are some of the worst games we've ever had, but I just think there actually is some potential with this game if they execute it properly. I know this video is more about like feedback about the beta, so I don't know if I'm coming across as very like negative about this game because I actually personally like this game, but you know, I'm trying to do a feedback video here, right? I'm trying to do a review. So don't get me wrong, I actually do like this game, and I'm just comparing it to like the last 5 years or so of Call of Duty. I think it has a chance to be the best Call of Duty that we've seen in about 5 years. And I can say right now for a fact, at the very least, it's not going to be the worst one, okay? It's not going to be the worst COD that we've had. So I don't know how much of an accomplishment that is, but you know, it is something. And of course, there is some nostalgia factoring into it because I played the OG Modern Warfare 2 a lot. That's one of my favorite Call of Duties. It's definitely in my top 5. So playing these maps again is a really fun experience for me. If you don't have a connection to these maps, like if you never played the original, I would say it probably downgrades the experience of this game for you. But I still think objectively, these maps are a lot better than the stuff they've been trying to create over the last few years, right? Like, I mean, look at last year, man. We had a map that was basically almost a 1-lane map. It had a small outer lane, but basically a 1-lane map with 500 fucking cars on it that blow up. I think actually towards the end of the year, they stopped them from blowing up, right? But like, come on, man. Like, that's the stuff they're creating nowadays. The worst map on Modern Warfare 2, at least on the beta, is Estate, but even on the real game is Derail. I'd play Derail over that map. You know what I mean? Like, Think about what we had in like Modern Warfare 2019, Euphrates Bridge. Like, are we serious? Like, come on, I play Derail over that all day. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm just saying, these maps are objectively still better than the stuff they're creating. They're creating some awful stuff. And at the top end, it's even worse. Like, Terminal shits on any map we've had in the last like 7 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even debatable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't worry too much about the maps. You know what I mean? Even if they don't like hold memories for you, they're still objectively a lot better than the stuff that we're getting. So yeah, overall, I'm optimistic for this game, man. I can see that it has some potential, all right? I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying it's a top 5 Call of Duty ever. It might not even be a top 10 Call of Duty ever, although I think it has potential to be top 10. But I'm just saying it's not terrible. It's not incomplete. It seems like it has some potential to actually be good. Only time will tell, but that is it for my review. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I don't know how long this video is. It might be like 30 minutes long, but you know, that's all right. I wanted to make sure I got all the information out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like rating if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter. Links to the description down below. Check out my last video if you missed it. We talked about the Sniper Wolf situation. That was kind of crazy, honestly. I don't know if there's been any update on that. I don't think so, because I haven't seen anyone post anything. But yeah, check that video out if you missed it. Other than that, have a good day and peace out.